welcome back to He Heals Podcast. My name is Rachel Elise. Today, it's a different kind of episode. I brought my sisters on the podcast. Welcome. I don't know why I blanked right now. Like, I forgot how to host. All right. So, before we get started, I guess I'll have you tell us your name and your age.
I'm Marissa, and I'm 24.
Reanna, 23.
Wait, I'm 25.
Really?
Oh my gosh.
The look in your eyes.
Okay,
You're
so
25.
I'm 25.
23.
23. I'm 29. We also have another sister who lives like 12 hours away, Rebecca, and she is
27.
27. I'm glad
sure.
you remember.
For sure.
That you remember, but not your own.
No.
Yeah, so, well, I guess we'll address the elephant in the room.
I don't know. Don't look at me.
Never mind. I was going to say something. I was like, oh, I won't address it that way. Anyways, so you're technically our cousin.
I was
so confused. I was going to say.
Yeah,
Marissa's black.
your cousin.
And yeah, she's technically our cousin.
Yeah.
But was adopted and
Yeah, I've been living with you guys since I was 5.
since you were 5?
Yeah, I think 4, maybe turning 5.
Yeah.
So it's been like, I don't know, like 18 years or something. Maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah. Most of your life.
It's crazy.
Okay. We can get into that a little bit later. First, I wanted to ask you guys, what are your thoughts or how was your experience growing up in a household with just sisters?
I think it was a lot, like, emotional-wise.
Yeah.
And I think even, like, growing up, like, I'm still, like, very emotional person. Yeah. But I definitely did want, like, a boy in the house really a lot.
did?
Like, especially, like, during high school, I was like, oh, I wish I had a brother. A lot, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I always wished our parents, like, adopted, but...
Oh,
Right.
adopted.
Yeah.
A son.
A son.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Huh. Interesting. What about you?
I don't know. I guess I used to grow up thinking that maybe a boy would like cut some of our attention, because I feel like with girls there's a lot of emotion in like the home, and so maybe like because I work with a lot of families who have like a lot of girls and a boy, and it's like I always feel like it breaks up the tension a little bit. But then I also feel like I don't know. I feel like we turned out okay.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I don't know. We kind of helped each other out growing up, so it isn't that bad. Like we could be very like open with each other, very honest. I mean, our house is a lot of girls, so there is definitely a lot of emotions. But
yeah.
I feel like I feel like I wouldn't change it now. It's fine now.
Yeah, I think when people ask me that question, I'm like, honestly, it was a lot of drama.
Yeah, that's true.
But also, I guess because we're so close in age, like there's only like a 6-year difference between us. In like from my perspective, it would be like we would get in an argument, and then like 5 minutes later, like we were just
Fine.
good, like on good terms, and it was just
Yeah.
I don't know. It was like for me, it was like growing up with the best friend, especially because me and Becca were so close. Like
And then we were close.
yeah,
too.
and then you guys too.
I feel like
were
we always
close.
partnered people together too, like our parents, and then you and Becca, and then me and Rihanna. And it's like it was easier that way for us to be like, you have a partner to like talk to. You have a person to be with. We were never just like, oh, there's like one person, they don't have anyone. We all always had a person to go to.
Yeah, yeah. Like me and Becca did everything together. Like all of our extracurricular activities we did together. We went to high school together. We had the same group friend together. So that was nice because I feel like the same balance me and her have, you guys kind of had, where like Becca was the more extroverted and friendly and talkative, and I was more shy, and so it was like easier to make friends because Becca would just
Make friends
would be
for
like
you.
the life of the party, and I'm just like I'm here.
Good balance.
It's
I actually
yeah.
feel like we weren't like that in high school though.
No, we
it
weren't
was
that
only
close.
till after
You guys
high
didn't hang out in high school?
I don't
No.
think we saw each other like once or twice during like all of high school.
I don't know. I think it was just one of
Really?
those things where, like we're both. I'm like outside, like I am an extrovert, but like when I was like in high school, I was very introverted. I had like the same 4 friends, and I stayed in my bubble, and I didn't really leave it. Like, I did cheer, but that was it. I stayed in my bubble, and so did she.
And then I did like a lot of other activities where it would be more extroverted. I feel like I could dance, choir. I did like all the things. So we never really crossed paths.
My main thing was ceramics. Like, that's where it was like, yeah, I'm amazing.
I know. I remember you would make some interesting projects.
I know. Like, that was where I shined, and it's so weird to think that, like, I was so introverted in high school, but, like, I'm actually not that introverted. I don't know. I think I had a lot of, like, up and downs in high school, so it's a very, like, uneven feeling. Like, people go, how is high school for you? And I was like, I don't know. It's kind of terrible for me. I don't know. So
Yeah. No, I feel that. Most of the time I'm like, I don't want to like reflect on high school. Honestly, like, sure, it was fun, made some good memories, but it wasn't the best time for me.
I know. Always like,
I feel like I definitely made it what it was. Like, I feel like looking back, I'm like, ooh, like I should have like reacted more to like what was happening at the moment, like especially like, you know, like dance team and stuff. But I feel like looking back, like in the moment, like I feel like overall I had a good time, and I've always made it like the best time, even though like it wasn't like always the best time.
That's so funny. I feel like Becca would say the same. She had like the best time. I'm like, oh. I feel like she would say that she had the best time in high school too.
Really? I don't know.
Prom queen.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, she was like homecoming princess, and
very
among other things.
Into a lot of activities.
Met her husband.
Met her husband. Number one thing.
That is true. Yeah. It was interesting you guys brought up if we had a brother, because I was actually going to ask you guys that, like, what are your thoughts on, like, or can you imagine life with a brother? Because I honestly cannot. Like
no.
I don't know. It would definitely change the dynamics for sure.
I don't know. I feel like they'd definitely be more spoiled than us. I feel like they've always wanted a boy, so it's like all the attention would go to the boy.
Yeah, I don't know.
In my opinion, I was just like, we're better off.
That was weird knowing that our parents like wanted a son. Not that that's not like that's probably a normal thing, but like it honestly made me feel like bad that like, oh, you wanted me to be a boy. So if you're a parent,
they wanted her to be a boy. I always say that I was a substitute boy because I feel like I get dragged into the most things when he needs help. When Uncle needs help, he usually goes to me before he goes to any of you first.
Interesting.
Like fixing the cars, I need to learn how to do the brakes, which I don't know how to do still. So it's kind of like one of those things that's not working, but he like will show me everything that's like wrong. Like you gotta be here for this. I feel like he does
that to each of us though.
I don't know. I don't experience the same
done
as
that
you.
with me.
Yeah, he does try to teach us like things.
I don't know. I feel like it's always a one-on-one, so like I only know my experience from him. Like I feel like you always ask me to help you.
No, he does that with everybody.
See, that's just me.
Yeah.
That's just the way that I perceive it though. Yeah.
Okay, so I only know my perspective as an oldest sibling. So I wanted to ask you guys to share a little bit about what it's like being a middle child, a youngest child. So I guess we could start with you, Rihanna. What is your experience as a youngest child? What are the youngest child problems?
Well, for one, like when I was little, like getting all the hand-me-down stuff, I feel like I got like all the leftover stuff of everyone. Like the cars. I didn't get a new car. I got a well, I'm pretty sure everyone got an old car.
Yeah, I mean, I got a used car, and don't get me wrong, like we got hand-me-downs too from like cousins, neighbors, whatnot. But go on.
Yeah. I don't know. I felt it was like fine. I think I felt like as the youngest, sometimes there's a lot of pressure. I feel like because it's like everyone's like 5 steps ahead, and so like as the youngest, it does feel like everyone's moving on, and I'm like, I'm still here, So sometimes it does feel like I am a little behind, but I'm like, no, wait, I'm like just right, where I'm supposed to be at. I have to think about like where you guys were at like my age. I'm like, okay, no, I'm fine. Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah. What about you? What did you experience as a middle child?
Honestly, like it comes from like two sides because I'm also, adopted. So it's kind of like one of those things. It's like I felt like I used that a lot as an excuse instead of being a middle child. But like now that I look back, I was like, it's just because you're the middle child. I feel like I felt like overlooked a lot. Like I didn't start doing sports right away, but when I did start, I was like, you really want to do that? Like I felt like really underencouraged to like go out and do something because like everybody else was already doing it. You know, even like starting college, like I feel like I didn't receive the same support that like you and Rihanna did. I was like, oh man, I gotta get a loan, I gotta get a job, and I have to like do all the things that I have to do to like succeed. When I was like, I'm looking at like my perspective of like, man, you know, they're supporting you, they're also supporting her, and I was like, oh man, I gotta do this by myself because there's so much going on. You know, when I started college, she was still in high school, so they're still supporting her dreams, and I was just like, dang, like, man, like I don't get any help, and it's just like you just kind of almost feel like, oh, there's not enough help going around because there's too many of us. And I felt like a lot of times I just felt overlooked, but I think it just made me become more independent, less relying on other people to support me.
Yeah.
And really like forge like, okay, if you want something, like you have to go out, like you have to go get it. Like it's not like you can't just wait for someone to stop what you're doing and like help you. But I don't know, I feel like growing up I was like always felt like a little bit ignored, a little bit under, like I was like a little overseen maybe. But it's just because there's so many of us and they're all trying to like figure out how to help us. But I'm like, again, it's just my perspective of like how I would live my life.
Yeah, for sure. And I was curious because obviously I can't understand your perspective, so that's so interesting. Yeah, as an oldest child, honestly, like probably the most annoying thing was needing to be an example. Like, so mom would always like say like, oh, you can't do this because you need to be an example for your sisters. And I was like, I don't care. Like as a kid, you know, or teenager, I'm like, I don't care how to be an example. I just want to do this thing. And yeah, so I guess there was like pressure in that way to like be a good example, to behave. So maybe that's why I rebelled. I don't know.
I feel like that's also hard too because I feel like we felt the pressure of you being successful. Like Rachel has a degree, Rachel's a nurse, and we're like, oh man, like set the bar really high, man. Like now you have to reach that goal. And like I feel like after like you did become a nurse and you graduated, it was just like this constant like you haven't graduated, hurry. And I was like I can't, like I couldn't process like what I was even trying to do at the time.
Yeah.
So I was like, I literally sat them down. I was like, I want to quit. Like I can't, like I can't make it. Like I don't know how. And he was like, no, just go a different way. And like, you know, it ended up working. But it was just like, I felt pressure because you had actually succeeded your goals. And I was just like, the bar is so high. Like, how am I going to reach that bar? You know, it's like, you know, realizing that like we are all on different levels. And like there is not one like way to reach that. And it was
timeline.
Yeah, the timelines will be different. Like, like the expectation for all of us to have the same degree, to have the same type of like things that we're doing, like it doesn't make any sense because we're all different people.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Because I mean, everyone deals with comparison. Maybe that's a generalization, but I think, you know, we would agree it's true. And then add in the element of like your sisters, your family, like that's even more so, like you can't help but to compare, even though that's not fair. And I completely agree with what you said, like people's definitions of success. Like, yeah, I succeeded in mom and dad's definition. But even now, I, as a 29-year-old in my career and whatnot, I'm still figuring it out. I'm still playing with going different directions, and you know, there's so much possibilities. But just because that's, you know, mom and dad's definition of success doesn't mean it has to be your definition of success. It could look completely different.
Yeah.
And so
I feel like that's what can hold me back a lot of times too, is like if I have this one definition of success and I'm always trying to go for that one, but it's like, oh, but I could have an opportunity over here or an opportunity to go this way. But it's like, let me not go those ways because I'm still focusing on that one goal. So it's like, you know, getting stuck on that one can stump you.
stick to a path, commit to it, whatever it is.
I will say a lot of the things that like I've been able to do in my life, I never planned for them. Like my first job, I didn't plan to go get that job. Like, you know, it wasn't a great job either, But it was because someone noticed, like, what I was doing in the moment.
Yeah.
And they were, like, offering me. And then even my second job, they saw what I was doing, and then they offered me the job. Like, none of it I planned. Like, I didn't know what half of them were.
That's so cool.
So it's kind of, like, interesting to be, like, we can plan every detail. We could plan all of our schooling. We could plan for whatever we want. And it's, like, you never know. Like, I changed my degree halfway right before I was done, and I was, like, 4 more years because I pretty much just went down a different path, and it was just, like, and I'm still going, but I'm almost done. But it's, like, I didn't know that I wanted to do it when I started.
Yeah.
So it's, like, really interesting because it's, like, I could have planned for it, but I didn't know what half of them were. So it's, like, how am I supposed to plan for something that
Dude.
I don't even know?
Yeah. That reminds me. I think it was Christine Kane. I heard her speak a while ago, and she talked about, people asked her, like, oh, like, did you ever think you'd be doing what you're doing now? And she's like, no, I didn't even know this was a thing. I didn't know, like, speaking and writing and traveling and doing all these things was a thing. And so, yeah, that's really cool to hear your story of how God really just, like, opened the doors and, like, paved the way, because I can't imagine you doing anything else than what you're doing because you're so good at it.
Yeah, I'm honestly the same. Like, I love my job.
Yeah.
And it's really hard, and it's really mentally tiring, but I love my job.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, if I might change something, but I feel like it would probably look really similar because I am really good at what I do. But I was like, right now my degree is to go towards supporting myself in my job so I can create income off of that and create, like, a life off of that.
Yeah.
Because I've seen people do it around me. Like, all of my bosses and stuff, they make a career and, like, a job and a lifestyle out of it. So it's like I could probably do the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really interesting field anyway. So I'm like, nothing ever stays the same. Everything's changing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
We're rooting you on. Oh yeah, so I did want to circle back to this, but will you touch on a little bit about your experience in foster care? I don't know, do you even remember, like, your time before moving in with us?
You know what's funny is a lot of times I don't, because I'm so, like, right now focused. Like, what am I doing today? But when you asked us to do the podcast, I've been trying to, like, reflect. I have a photo book of, like, a couple of families that I used to live with.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I've tried to, like, really remember, like, I don't know, like, feeling, sensation, like, color. That's how me and my clients perceive a lot of things. So it's like I've been trying to, like, take something out of their book and, like, how do they remember these things? Because they remember things from forever ago. And, like, I feel like I have been, like, remembering, like, moments or, like, how I used to feel, like, when I was upset or, like, my first bath ever. Like, and it sounds really weird because I was so young. I was actually 2 when I started foster care and 4 when I actually moved out to California. So it's been 2 years with 2 different, maybe 3 different families.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, it's like weird to think about, like, it wasn't long, but it stays with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember, like, moments of, like, things that I probably were crying about or sad about. And it's like, oh, that's crazy. I even remember, like, coming here for the first time was, like, really confusing and upsetting for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I look back and I'm like, dang, those things are, like, so petty. Like, they're things that kids cry about now. But for me, it was, like, the end of the world.
Yeah, well, because as a kid, like,
it's
that was
confusing.
your world, and you're being moved, just taken away from something so familiar to something so unfamiliar. So I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I remember, like families used to take me places because that's what you do with foster kids. You go experience things with them that they would never experience before. And, like, I went to a game. I don't know if it was a Dodgers game, but it was a baseball game in general. It probably wasn't.
If you weren't in California, probably not.
Well, I'm in Florida, but I don't know. I didn't know what the sport
Who
was.
even plays in Florida? I do not know.
Okay.
Jacksonville.
Don't make stuff up. We don't know.
Anyways.
Shout out.
But, I mean, they took me to... Stop. Oh, God. No, but I just remember, like, going to baseball games, going to Discovery and Science stuff. And, like, I remember, like, this one, came out of the blue because I think I was watching, like, a show, and it just reminded me of my mom actually calling and actually getting, like, to call and, like, receive calls, but they were yelling because I don't know what happened, but I was, like, really young. I remember, like, running out, like, without clothes because she was about to give me a bath, the foster parent, and I was like, this is so weird. Like, why do I remember this moment? I think I just remember, like, causing a scene because they were yelling and I was confused, and I was like, that's so weird. Like, who remembers, like, a moment like that? And, like, it doesn't mean anything to me, but I was like, that's crazy to like have those memories and like be living the life that I'm living now. But I definitely am blessed to be with and Debbie and Uncle Juan. I think it takes a strong couple to like bring in another person into your home, another child that like is your sibling's child. And I was like, that like, I don't know a lot of other people who would like bring in their niece and nephew. Well, I guess there's a lot of people, but like it takes a strong family to be like, I have 3 other responsibilities. Let me bring in another one.
Yeah.
Let me raise her the way that she needs to be raised. And just like, oh, that's crazy. Like, especially in a Christian home. Like, I don't think I would be here if like they never took me in. If I would have stayed in the system, like God knows where I would be. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's like crazy.
Yeah.
And I came to that realization like 2 years ago. I was like, man, like a lot of kids are not lucky. A lot of kids don't get taken by their aunts and uncles and are loved and received like that. Like, you know, like I definitely went through like challenges growing up, but I think a lot of it was like me not knowing how to react appropriately and me not being disciplined to react appropriately. So I feel like a lot of like the trauma that I do have from growing up in a household where I'm the only one who's not like their parents, you know, it's like, I think I just wasn't raised to respond the correct way. And I think that's what's hard. It's like, especially being in my field, like every day is a reminder, like all the behaviors I did growing up is because of a reason.
Yeah.
Like I just didn't do it because I was being a terrible kid. I did it because I wasn't taught differently.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like an eye-opener, more about me than about the kids. Sometimes I'm like, oh, here to speak into me as you're sitting there crying in front of me. And I'm like, I mean, it sucks because a lot of times we can't explain why we're upset. But like, if someone actually takes the time to like teach you, like, okay, I understand you're upset, but like, let's try to figure out why instead of just chaos ensuing when you become upset, which is like a normal in our home. It's kind of like an interesting like look on like my childhood.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. Because honestly, this is not something that we just like sit down and talk about.
No.
Like, I
It's
don't, like
weird.
a lot of this stuff we haven't
like,
talked
oh.
about before.
I know.
I know. I'm like, oh, this is new information to me.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see how much like you do remember and how much you have reflected and how you can see, you know, and understand a little bit about your patterns from the past and learn from it, and even helping you in your current career. Like, I think that's really cool.
Yeah. It's an uncomfortable conversation for me. I get like really shaky. I don't like to talk about it. I mean, I will talk about it to people who like really want to know, but it's a very personal topic. And I'm like, if you want to know more, you could ask, you know, that's always, I'm always open to talk about it, but I'm not just going to use it. I don't believe in using like my trauma as an excuse for like, you know, just bringing it up every moment. It's really stressful. And I just like, it's hard to talk about, but if you ask, like, I definitely will open up. Because it's very like, I've met kids who have gone through some same things. And it's like, man, like we needed to have this conversation. Like you needed to know my story to help you.
Yeah.
But it's like, I also don't think it's for everyone because it's a lot. But
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. And it's not necessarily like using your trauma as an excuse, but, you know, being able to stand in confidence or in, you know, because of everything you've been through and how it's made you as the person you are today, and sharing your story because, like you said, someone else needs it. Someone else needs to hear it. Someone else is going through or has experienced the same thing who like needs to relate to you. And so, but thank you for coming on and sharing that.
I know.
I know.
It's a lot. I was like, I don't know how much to give them.
Yeah,
But yeah.
it's cool. Okay, yeah, going back to sibling dynamics. I'll be really honest. I know I wasn't the greatest sister growing up. So I'm gonna ask you guys, did you guys like me?
I didn't know what the question was.
I know me neither. I wasn't shocked by it, but I didn't know what you're gonna ask me.
I literally wrote it down. Like, did you even like me?
I'm not surprised.
You can be honest. Like, it's cool.
I loved you because you're my sister, but I didn't like you as a person.
I
Fair.
think growing up, because we didn't really like know you, we only saw who you were, and then, you know, that's what we took, and we're like, oh, that's who Rachel was.
Yeah.
But I think until we like started to like actually like, hang out with you, like you took us places, and you know, like we're actually like hanging out and actually getting to know you, like who you are. Then it was like, oh, okay. Now we like it's almost like it's almost like seeing someone on television and you're like,
Yeah.
I know who that person is. Like, I know who, Kim Kardashian
Just
is,
'cause when you
because
see
you see
glimpses of
them,
the
yeah,
person.
like on social media, but it's like, you don't actually know who that person
Yeah.
is, so. But.
Yeah, I remember this was like during COVID. It was like right before it started. We were sitting outside. I don't know what we were doing, but you came out there to share something with us, and you left after sharing, like talking with us about it. I was like, Rihanna, she talked to us. She came to us. I was so shocked, and Rihanna was like, "You're so dramatic," but I was like you really never shared those type of things with us, or like to sit down.
Yeah.
So I was very like, oh my God, like she sat with us, like, I thought maybe it was because we were older or whatever. You finally saw us as like young adults or something. But I don't know. I think you were just in this like place of like really like working on yourself, and like you actually let us in, and I was like, kind of like changed our whole dynamic.
Yeah.
And I feel like our parents can see it. I don't know if they, I don't know. I got a couple of comments that were just like, hey, it's not about like, they're like, you're leaving Rebecca out. And I'm like, she's just not home. Like, it's not that we're leaving her out. Like,
She doesn't live here.
I know. Like, if she was here, she would be right in the middle of it. But it's like, Steve was like, you guys are like better friends. And I'm like, no, it's just because she's home right now. And it's just because Becca's not home. Like, when Becca's around, it's the same dynamic. Like, nothing changes. But
for sure.
it's like very interesting to see like how much closer we have gotten.
Yeah.
Yeah, you also mentioned like how far apart, because we're 6 years apart, and I don't know, like I guess when I was younger, like that seemed like ages away, like especially like me being like in elementary and you being like in high school almost, like that's like a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
And so I think when I was younger, like seeing it in that aspect, I was like, oh my gosh, we're like so much different, But then I think even like right now in this moment, like as we're like adults pretty much, I'm like, there's not really much of a difference. We're still figuring like life out and stuff. So yeah, I think that's probably the only difference.
Yeah. And like, let me paint the picture for people, because when I say I wasn't a good sister, that's kind of vague. Yeah, I was very distant, and I wasn't, honestly, I wasn't like a great daughter either. I like rebelled a lot and did my own thing, and so after high school, when I got a boyfriend, I pretty much lived at the boyfriend's house without moving out. But I spent all my time with him and their family, and I do not recommend this. And really, I was just running away from my problems. I didn't want to be home. And yeah, so that's what you guys saw was me. I don't know. I guess it's that, that phrase, like, hurt people hurt people. Yeah. Like, I hate that, and it sucks, but like, that's honestly, it's true. It's like, you guys were just seeing this nasty side of me, but like, the truth is, like, deep inside, like, there was a lot going on, a lot of pain, a lot of hurt. And it's so interesting. You're talking about COVID, and during COVID, like, remember how we were watching a lot of, like, childhood videos?
Yes.
I remember watching a video, and me and Becca were, like, kids, very young. And I remember, like, I just had, like, such an attitude. And I was like, wow, have I always been this, like, been that way? I guess I have. But, like, I just couldn't help but to see past that and to see like, wow, like I was hurting, like, and I didn't know I was hurting. I just knew I was upset. And so it came out with a bad attitude, but like deep inside, like I was hurting. And so that's why I guess like there was just a wall, not just between us, but like between like so many other people. Yeah.
I think it was hard though, because we also were a lot younger. We were living completely different lives.
Yeah.
You were trying to become an adult while we were still living in like our teenage years.
And we didn't really know better either. We're like, oh, why is our sister not here? Like that's all we knew was you just not being
But it's
there.
also like, it's one of those things like when you're in high school versus when you're in college. Like they are two completely different worlds.
Definitely.
Like they don't even combine. So it's kind of like we had no understanding of what you were going through or how to help you. Mm-hmm. And, and it's not like we were reaching out to ask you for help either. It's just one of those things. We were just living different worlds.
Yeah. And
I think I like really had to think about it. I was like, man, we are just in two different spaces of like our life, like just for a really long time, because there is a big gap. Like me and you literally never went to school together.
No.
Ever. We were always like, I was always a year behind you to where you literally graduated when I entered high school. Mm-hmm. I did get the pleasure of going to school with Rebecca. I don't recommend it.
Wait,
I never
went to school with you then.
I know, but that wasn't obvious. You guys took me apart.
Sorry.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I don't remember the exact moment, but there was definitely a transition of like where I realized like, oh, you guys are young adults now, like, and we relate more, like, and I know we were going to church together.
I think it's when you started going to Safe House, because that's when we actually started going to Safe House. Like, we had just started the year before. Because
Yeah.
I skipped a year because I felt like I wasn't ready. But I think I really just couldn't go without Reanna.
That makes sense. So Safe House, we talked about it on here, was our young adults group at our church. No, that makes sense because just in general, the space was people opening up and being vulnerable and sharing about their struggles. So, yeah, that just makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought you were going to say something.
Yeah, no, I was just confirming with Rihanna.
But
If I don't look at Rihanna enough, I melts away, apparently.
Yeah.
No.
melts away. Well, I'm grateful that we're closer now. We get to hang and
it's funny because you are like very like open with yourself. It just like you have to be in like your space and like just really like be comfortable. You open up and it's like, you know, like I think like the number one thing we all do is laugh. Like we all love to make jokes.
Yeah.
So it's really helpful. Like we love to like mimic things. So one thing in our house is like we're always singing. I know I felt like we're all home. I could sing a song and like 10 seconds later, all of you guys are humming it to yourself. And I don't feel weird because I know that I did that.
It's crazy we haven't sang one
song. Not yet.
I know that is
But
true.
it's like a very thing I feel very comfortable and it's just like, you know, our relationship is very like happy, dynamic and like I'm a big person. I love laughing. So it's like you know, when I can laugh with like my siblings, it's really nice.
And dance a lot.
Dance a lot.
Yes.
Sing.
Dance
quote.
move of the day.
I know. I was about to say that too. I missed the dance move of the day.
I don't even know where I got that. I think it's when you you did the Felix what is it? Fix it Felix dance, and I was like, oh yeah.
I did a version of that earlier today. Cannot lie. I'm not gonna do it
but
right
how many
now.
times
Don't
does she
ask.
do it?
Just look up
all the time.
Just look up the Fix It Felix dance.
You'll know.
It's just really funny when you did it the first time. I think I was super confused. I was like, "What are you doing?"
That's because that was like my favorite movie.
Oh yeah, we definitely watched that a lot.
That movie.
No, but yeah, I feel like even with like when you add Rebecca, it's like it really feels complete.
It amplifies.
It does.
Because she is
Becca is
on another level of like
love.
It's like extrovert and then introvert. It's like Rebecca and then me. I feel like.
Oh yeah, it's like a spectrum.
And then that's the spectrum.
Yeah.
I feel like what's funny is like I'm a very touchy person, but you and Rianna are not. You guys' love language is not physical touch, but mine and Rebecca's is. So when we go to see Becca,
you're just hugging.
We're just hugging the whole time where we're sitting like right next to each other. Like I noticed it last time we went. We were like this, and I was like, "Why are you touching?" Never mind. I was like, "Cause I know when I go home, Rachel and Rianna are just not gonna touch me like that."
Sweet, honestly.
I know, but it like kind of completes us. It's definitely like it's a lot. It's a lot more.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyways, Becca, if you're watching, come back to SoCal.
Come home.
Come home. Okay, so we can transition a little bit. I wanted to talk about ministry because that is honestly something I've always admired about you guys is your servant hearts, really, and your commitment to the church. And like, you guys are just always serving, whether it's in church on a Sunday or like serving a family like during the week. That's honestly something I admire about you guys. Aww. I thought you were gonna cry.
No, there's something wrong.
You can get it. It's okay. Anyways, I'm gonna start with Rianna. Because we kind of like alluded to it. You're definitely an introvert. Probably, you know, people would describe you as shy, the shy type. But also, like, you serve high up in leadership. So, what is that like? Being shy, introverted, but also in a leader position.
Yeah. I think it's definitely it was a hard transition at first because there were so many aspects where, you know, you have to talk in front of a big group of people and I'm like, that's not something I normally would do or it's in my comfort zone to do. So there was definitely a lot of stretching I had to do where it was like going out of my comfort zone a lot. But honestly, it's always like, I'm always learning, like every single day, every week, every Sunday, I'm learning something new about myself, or even myself in leadership, or of how I can grow too.
I just realized we are in school together right now.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I forgot.
Circle complete.
Okay, anyways, go on.
I don't remember what I was going to say.
Right.
My bad. I was just like, wait, we have to do it together. Yeah. Well, it's okay. Go.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I feel like I started pretty young. I think I was like 19 when I first started like actually leading kids ministry. So that it's crazy to think back because I'm 23 now. But I think we also had, like, you know, as you were saying, like, we stayed in church for quite a while. So we had a lot of like leadership tools in our belt. Like we did a internship. I forgot what it's called. We did an internship like one time, and then I helped during an internship another time. So I feel like we had like a lot of like tools that we kept in our belt, and even now, like going into into RLC, like there's so many things I'm like still learning where I'm like, I feel like I should have already known this, but I'm still learning those things. So yeah, it's always learning every single day, growing every single day.
No,
but
I feel that.
I will say, I came to the realization the other day that our parents served in the theater. So I feel like we had a good background of what serving looked like.
Yeah.
Because we were just always there.
Yeah.
We were just always at church, like, you know, every Sunday from like 7 to whenever time we left. But it's like, I feel like we like had a good foundation of like what serving looked like.
Yeah.
Like maybe even if we didn't understand that like we were serving God in the sense, we just knew that we were serving people. I feel like that's why like we do serve so hard. And it's just because like we already know like serving people is so important.
It was just a lifestyle.
Yeah, it was a lifestyle like one point. And then when we went to Relevant, it's just like that's what we do. It's like we serve at Relevant. We serve people, like people who are broken, whatever it is. And we always laugh because we like to talk about our first time serving at Relevant because I don't know, it was really random.
What's the first time?
I remember, I don't know if you remember, but you guys used to drop us off like at Regal like really early. Or maybe Uncle Juan used to. He used to drop us off early when you and Becca weren't going. I feel like you guys were like take days off or whatever, and we would go and we would like there was someone there. They're like set up these shirts and pens, and we're like okay, and we have a picture of us doing it and with the lime green shirts, and like that's what we would do is we would set up shirts and pens, and then Eric Williams was like, "I'm serving kids," and I was like, "No."
No.
But Rihanna wanted to go, so she went and she was like, "You could do check-in," and so that's when I started. I started at check-in.
So you didn't want to serve with kids?
I didn't because at the time I was babysitting a lot.
Oh.
So I felt like, and I was also working with kids, so I felt like it was too many kids around me.
I see.
But then at some point I just got sucked in. So it was like one of those things. It's like, you know, when you don't have help, you just pull people. So I get it now because I do the same thing.
Yeah.
But
it's like, I can't imagine you not serving in kids ministry.
I know, but I was in high school, so
That's true.
I said whatever I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the lime green shirts too.
Yeah. I don't have
And
any.
doing a welcome team.
Yeah.
yeah, we did do welcome team.
Okay, so this is the last thing I really wanted to touch on, and we kind of touched on it already, but it's really cool to see how you guys stayed in the church, even when, you know, there's times that me and Becca were not so committed and we were kind of doing our own thing, but you guys stayed at a time where most kids after high school, they're just done. Like, their parents aren't forcing them to show up to church anymore, and so they get to do their own thing and they leave the church. So what was it that made you guys stay in the church?
I'll say like we had like really amazing leaders.
I was going to say that too.
Like a lot of the
Crazy.
leaders we had were very personable with us. And so I feel like they kept us accountable in the sense that, you know, we stayed in serving and even coming to church. They were like, how are you going to get there? All right, I'll pick you up on the way there, you know, like something like that.
Yeah.
But also I think just we just had that heart. You know, we just both loved serving. I couldn't see any of us or both of us not serving.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what we love to do. So.
I will like give a shout out to Sandra. Like because when I graduated from high school, my first year of college, she made it a point to take me out for the whole first year. Like anytime, like she would just be like, "Are you available? Do you want to come over?" Not to like babysit or anything, just to hang out with me. And we would take Nye everywhere. Like she would take me to coffee shops, or she'd take me shopping with her, like on errands, like. And, like, she really kept me, like, engaged. So where, like, you know, I couldn't get distracted by, like, the real world because I was, like, oh, like, she wants to hang out with me. Like, of course. Like, I'm so. And, like, you know, it's like they made a relationship even though we were done with high school. Like, so she wasn't my high school leader anymore. She was just my mentor, my friend. So it was, like, one of those things that's, like, oh, it's hard to leave your friends and the people who are growing you. And then I think like when we started doing high school regroups, I met like a couple of the kids, and like some of us shared the same story. And it was just like really interesting. And I was like, well, now I don't want to leave anymore. And then it just kept like going. Like there's just so many reasons to stay.
Yeah.
And it's like right now, I think our biggest reason is the kids and kids ministry. Like we've known so many of them since they were born or before they were born. And, you know, like the overturf's like, oh my goodness. Like watching them like grow up, it's like crazy to like be like, man, I've been a part of like your story in church. Whether it's a good or a bad one, like I'm hoping it's good. But we've been a part of your life for so long. Like, I want to see what happens next. So
yeah, someone also asked us recently too, and it was more like over COVID, like why did you stay and like what was the reason and stuff. And honestly, like I think we both had the same answer, but it was like we just had to keep like God at the center and like always know like why we were serving. Like we always have to keep that as like the basis of like why are we serving? We're serving to serve God, you know.
yeah,
Like that was like the basis of what it was, and then you know everything else, the people who were serving, who were under what pastor were under, none of it mattered, you know. Like as long as we were serving God, like that was our, you know.
it kind of helps you stay away from the drama of like people ask like, oh, do you know about this? It's like almost like sometimes I don't know. But I'm like, do you know how many people I scheduled this week? How many people confirmed? That's all I'm thinking about. You know, it's like that's like how am I going to make Sunday work for the kids who are coming in? It's like you keep your nose out of the drama. Like that's really the only.
Yeah.
That's your that's your foundation.
Yeah.
It's
Like, the why.
The why.
The
That's
why
your why.
of life. The why
Yeah.
of everything. The why of why we're even showing up on a Sunday is for Jesus.
Like I'm tired, I'm angry, and I'm mad. Like we were probably fighting in the car, but we still showed up. Like that's our why. Like I feel like that's why we also don't get as burnt out as some people do. It's because our why is so firm. Like, like we know why we're coming in. I'll come in mad. I'll come in angry and crying. But I'll come in and I'll make sure that I do what I have to do, or make sure that you do what you have to do, because this Sunday only works if like everyone's involved. Yeah. It's a pretty good foundation.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
And I think that really speaks to the importance of, one, parents raising their kids. And yeah, if you have to force your kids to church, force your kids to church. I can't imagine my life if, you know, mom and dad didn't force me to go to church. But also the importance of leaders for in whether that's kids ministry, middle school, high school ministry, like it's not a small role. Like that's actually a huge role, and you can make an impact in someone's life. Even like if it's a 5-year-old or a 16-year-old, like
I mean, if you live your life like that, like on a normal, not to say that like we are perfect, like there are definitely days when I'm like, I'm not living like that, but it shows up in your work too. Like it shows up outside of church. It shows up outside of Sunday. I have so many people who are like, why are you like just so good? It's like, because I know why I'm here. And I'll tell the parents, like, this is why I'm here. Like, I'm not here as a free babysitter. I'm not here as this or that. Like, I am here because this is the goal. This is what I want to see from your child. And, like, if you can't see that vision with me, then maybe I shouldn't be here. And, like, when parents understand that, they're so in tune to my sessions. And, like, it's super, like, it's amazing to see, like, which ones hold on to it, which ones forget. Because it's like, if they know why I'm there, then I'm good. Then I could actually work. Because when they don't know, they're like there's confusion, and they're like get like mad and angry, like they don't see change, and it's like it's not gonna happen right now.
right.
But I mean, it's good. They see it outside too. They see that I go to church. I don't really have to say it a lot of times. They're like, "Are you a Christian?" I'm like, "I am."
Oh, that's
like I love
really
you, and I have a lot of
cool.
families who like aren't believers or are but don't take their kids to church. Those kids with special needs, so it's really hard to take your kids to church sometimes. But yeah, it's like one of those things. Like a lot of parents, they'll see it and they know if you're a good person or not. Like parents with kids with special needs, they know. Like I don't know why, but they do. So it's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really cool that the families that you work with can see that, because that's what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be a light. Like when people see you and how you carry yourself and how you treat other people, like they should see Jesus in you. So that's really cool that people see that in you. Walking, talking ministry.
Yeah. Amen. I don't say that at work though. I would get in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
I can't actually talk about it, but
all right. Well, thanks guys for coming to chat with me for a little bit. Yeah. This is not awkward.
No.
All right. Well, thank you for watching. If this episode touched your heart, go ahead, screenshot it wherever you're watching, share it, tag us on Instagram at He Heals Podcast. Do you guys want to share where people are going to follow you? Do you want that?
It's fine.
Oh,
It's at Marissa Oriero. It has to be in the chat because I don't think people know how to spell my last name.
We'll type it.
Yeah.
Yes.
mine's just Rihanna Ramirez.
Okay. We're kind of boring.
Underscore.
Underscore.
Give them a follow, and we will see you in the next episode.